Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don Neuen. And this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio. And, yes, John B. Wells has allowed us to fill in tonight on Arc Midnight. And normally I do a show with my husband, Don Neuen, called Cowboy Logic Radio. And if the name Donna Fiducia sounds familiar, it's because, well, you might have seen me on the Fox News channel many, many years ago. And now again, I co-host the show Cowboy Logic Radio with my husband, Don Neuen. And normally, now since we're filling in for John, we're trying to be more subdued and classy. But normally, Don will just blurt out his name at this point in the show. And he's trying to subdue himself and actually not do that because we're trying to be nice and kind of classy for Arc Midnight tonight.
That's fake news, Donna. And no, I'm not. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Don Neuen. And let me be the absolute first to welcome. Let me be the first to welcome you to tonight's riveting episode of Cowboy Logic Radio as we step in to help out and fill the enormous shoes of John B. Wells. Back to you, Donna.
I knew that was coming, folks, and welcome to Arc Midnight. We are broadcasting from an undisclosed location from space, but really not. We're God's country.
Deep within the bowels of the earth, surrounded by concrete, and we've got 14 illegal aliens that are positioned at strategic points, all holding AR-15s. And for those liberals that are listening, AR stands for assault rifle. Back to you, Donna.
No, it doesn't. But that's another story. I give up.
Hey, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it is an absolute honor to sit in for the great John B. Wells, a man that I model myself after daily.
Absolutely. And after the break, we're going to start in with talking politics right off the bat. A wonderful author and attorney named Sidney Powell. She wrote the book License to Lie, exposing the corruption in the Department of Justice. That pretty much sums it all up. Sidney Powell coming up next on Arc Midnight.
Hi, thank you for listening. My name is Ron Phillips, and I'm the owner and operations manager of Talk America Radio. It is with great pride that I offer you this 24/7 stream of some of the finest talk radio programming in the country, but I need your support. We are a listener-supported network. That means we need your help to continue to offer the quality programming you're hearing right now. If you're able, please visit talkamericaradio.us and click the Support Us button. Your donation will go a long way in helping us continue to share the American voice. Thank you.
Welcome back to Arc Midnight. I'm Donna Fiducia along with Don Neuen, and we want to thank John B. Wells for allowing us the opportunity to sit in here this evening. Hello, America. Hello, the Salem Radio Network. It's just great to be on, and we have a wonderful guest coming up. Don, you just haven't blurted out your name.
Well,
Why
I'm
is that?
focusing on other things right now, Donna, but I'm back into the game. And ladies and gentlemen, let me be the first to welcome you back to Arc Midnight. This is absolutely a riveting episode of Arc
so
Midnight,
weird.
if I do say so myself. And it's about to go completely off the chain because the guest that we've got coming up is a dear friend of ours. We have had her on Cowboy Logic Radio numerous times. My favorite outfit that she has is the pink one that she wore on the Fox News channel a few months ago, and I have been informed by one Sidney Powell that outfit travels well.
Yes.
So, Sidney, did you wear this at CPAC?
I did wear it at CPAC, Don, just because of you.
Thank you, my dear. Now, let's go through your illustrious bio. Donna Fiducia.
All right, Sidney Powell she's an attorney and an author of a book, and listen to the name of this, folks, Licensed to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice. Yes, this was written years ago. Yes, Newt Gingrich mentioned it on Hannity's show, and it shot back up to the Amazon bestseller list. You can find it at licensedtolie.com. And Sidney, you in your book, I mean, and with your vast experience in the DOJ, you've worked for both Democrats and Republicans, so you're an equal opportunity offender. You name names, and many of these names are the people that are trying to investigate Donald Trump that Robert Mueller has hired. Sidney Powell, welcome to ARC Midnight.
Thank you so much, Donna and Don. It's always great to be with both of you.
Let's start with some of the names here. Okay, first of all, Robert Mueller, who basically had a hand in Uranium One, so why he shouldn't even have recused himself from day one is unbelievable. But worse, I think, really, is what's going on with Weitzman, Andrew Weitzman. Tell us a little bit about him. The guy is evil.
He is. He should have been disbarred many years ago. In fact, he's one of the primary reasons I wrote License to Lie. He was head of the Enron task force for a number of years, and in that process, he and his team, which included Catherine Rumler and Lisa Monaco and Leslie Caldwell and Matthew Friedrich, literally made up crimes. Of course, they destroyed Arthur Anderson, and with it, 85,000 jobs, only to be reversed by the Supreme Court 9-0 several years later when it was too late to help the company at all. And then he made up crimes against 4 Merrill Lynch executives and sent them to prison for up to a year on an indictment that didn't state a federal offense, while he and his team had actually yellow highlighted but hidden the exact evidence that showed the defendants were innocent. That's what really sent me over the edge. Meanwhile, after he left the Enron task force, Bob Mueller pulled him back into the FBI to serve as deputy director and general counsel. Lisa Monaco became President Obama's counterterrorism advisor, and she is part of the unmasking and had a hand in everything that was going on at the White House in terms of the phony FISA warrant and the meetings there. And then Leslie Caldwell became Loretta Lynch's head of the criminal division of the Department of Justice, and she brought Andrew Weitzman back to DOJ, from whence Mueller pulled him for the special task force now investigating President Trump. I mean, this group is what I've called a corrupt cabal of prosecutors, one of whom has been in the White House or very high up in the Department of Justice for more than a decade under both administrations. Oh, and Catherine Rumler was Obama's longest-serving White House counsel. She's now defending Susan Rice against the unmasking investigation and that sort of thing related to the FISA abuse also.
How are we as American citizens, law-abiding American citizens, going to be able to see justice be served with these people infecting these agencies?
Well, they're going to have to be removed, and they're going to have to be prosecuted if we're going to continue to have a rule of law in the country, and I'm very concerned about that. I mean, as you know, I've been on this Mueller task force issue for a long time, ever since I heard he pulled Andrew Weitzman on first thing. I knew that was a bad sign, and I just... unless we get a true independent special counsel at some point, I do not see how Mr. Huber and Inspector General Horowitz are going to be able to do this all themselves. Inspector General Horowitz, now investigating the FISA abuses and everything on behalf of the Department of Justice, is a good guy, but his authority is limited, and he will bump up against the Mueller investigation when he tries to get information and be shut down from that part of it. So I'm looking forward to his report, which should come out in the next month or so, at least the first part of it. I think it's going to be massive. He's produced over 1.2 million documents to Congress, and he's the one who found the stroke page text messages that have been so explosive. But he is cabined in what he can do because of his authority. He's not a prosecutor, so he can only recommend. And apparently General Sessions has named Mr. Huber to help with that investigation, but he's not in D.C. He's not going to have it would have to be a D.C. grand jury to indict anybody, and apparently he's just to recommend also. So I'm concerned that that's just another delay leg instead of actually getting after some of this stuff.
Why do you think?
We'll know more when.
Why do you think Sessions made this move that he did, that we were all alerted to last week, but we also kind of read into a couple of months ago? I think it was when he was in an interview with Shannon Bream, if I'm not mistaken. But why do you think he made this move to not appoint another
second special counsel?
Yeah. Now I've got some of the people that are advising me, telling me, hey, this is no big deal. The guy has the ability to prosecute. There's not a need for the second special counsel. Then other people that are advising me are going, man, this is a complete disaster. Clearly somebody has something on Sessions. What's your take and your read on that?
Well, I guess I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't think somebody has something on Sessions. I'm just not sure that he understands how bad it really is. And how bad Mr. Weissman and Mr. Mueller can be or are. I think he is trying to do the right thing. I'd always hoped it could be done within the Department of Justice, but I don't see how that's possible as long as Rod Rosenstein is there.
Yeah, that's a concern
Rosenstein signed off. Yeah, Rosenstein signed off on one of the phony FICE applications. And on top of that, Dana Boente.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Dana Boente, what?
Dana Boente, who was acting attorney general for a while, or acting deputy attorney general, they moved him over to be FBI general counsel, and he signed off on one of the FISA warrant applications, too. So we've got two people at the head of both agencies who signed off on the phony FISA applications, both of whom I think should recuse, if nothing else, preferably, go on to other jobs. Because I don't know what they knew and how they can still be there or be part of either agency that's supposed to be being investigated for these very violations. And Horowitz is supposed to be investigating them.
I don't understand why they hadn't recused themselves. I mean, what Jeff Sessions recused himself for...
They don't want to recuse themselves.
I know they don't. But the thing is, to quote a friend of mine, it's Denise Simon, it's mice nuts what Sessions basically recused himself over compared to what all these people on the Mueller team got. Plus now you've got the Senate committee that says there's no collusion. Why is Mueller allowed to continue?
Yeah, it's a big problem. I mean, it's taken on a life of its own. It did that as soon as Rosenstein created it. I mean, Rosenstein ought to be fired just for appointing the special counsel to begin with and picking Mueller, of all people, who had just the day before, I think, interviewed with Donald Trump to head the FBI. And the conflicts he has with his longstanding friend James Comey, who's now under investigation for probably lying to Congress, since McCabe's statements contradict Comey's statements, and we already know McCabe is a liar. It's insane.
All right, Sidney Powell, do me a favor, and let's do a little exposing of Bob Mueller. Uranium One, along with the anthrax botched investigation. Can you shed a little light on that for the listeners?
He pursued a person in the anthrax case for 5 or 6 years, I think, only for the person to be found innocent of the charges. Meanwhile, the person who had actually done it was still out there. And he never would really admit that he had just been totally bullheaded about it.
Well, he never apologized either, did he? I mean, the innocent man never received an apology whatsoever, right?
No, I'm sure not. I don't know all the details of that, but I'm sure he did not receive an apology, and Mr. Mueller was just relentless in his pursuit of him, despite the fact that there was evidence that pointed them in another direction.
Amazing.
So I think to that extent, he's very much like his buddy Weissman. I mean, they make up their mind that they're going to go after somebody, and that's what they do. They pick the people, and then they look for crimes to pin on them instead of looking for crimes. And that's exactly what he's done in this whole investigation that he started. I mean, look at Paul Manafort. I mean, I don't know Mr. Manafort, and he may not have been the most ethical businessman on the face of the earth, but there is hardly anybody in this country who can survive having 17 lawyers and I don't know how many investigators go through 20 prior years of their financial records and not have a prosecutor find something to pin on them.
And Michael Flynn, too.
And the whole Michael Flynn thing's ridiculous. I've got an article in the Daily Caller suggesting that he withdraw his guilty plea because I'm sure there's going to be evidence produced that I'm guessing that Mr. McCabe actually encouraged the alteration of the FBI reports of their interview with Michael Flynn so that they could go ahead and prosecute him. I mean, something's bad wrong there.
Well, we've got to go to a break here in about a minute. Sidney Powell, when we get back, let's also finish up on talking about Mueller and his role in Uranium One.
And we have a lot of situations also, Sidney Powell, with a judge recusal with the Michael Flynn case. And if anything else, you've got more problems from the left, even though, the right and Donald Trump are basically getting, looked at up the wazoo. We're talking with Sidney Powell. Again, she is the author. She's an attorney, and she's the author of a great book called License to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice. She has decades worth of work in the DOJ for both sides of the aisle. She's sick and tired of what's going on here, and we're going to talk more about that. And also, Sidney, I want to look at one of your columns that you did for Newsmax called Draining the DOJ Swamp. I think we should drain the FBI, the CIA, the IRS, and the DHS as well. We'll be talking more with Sidney Powell coming up next on ARC Midnight.
Hi, it's Mark Walters from Armed American Radio. You know, for nearly a decade, I've been educating, informing, and entertaining responsibly armed Americans. And during that time together, we've shared some ups and downs, haven't we? Trump's election saved our Supreme Court and no doubt the future of our gun rights for now. But now is not the time to lay down. The enemies of freedom are well-funded and more determined than ever. To keep up with the state of your gun rights, make sure to tune in to Armed American Radio right here on Talk America Radio, the new dominant voice in conservative talk radio.
You are about to join Don Neuen, co-host of Cowboy Logic Radio, and Denise Simon, host of the Denise Simon Experience, for a weekly situation report, or SITREP. 18 hours a day, Denise Simon lives her life as an intel analyst. 18 hours a day, Don Neuen lives his life in the world of rock and roll. 1 hour each day, Neuen receives a daily SITREP from Simon. Welcome to the Drive Time Situation Report. Fasten your seatbelt. You're now in Don Newen's car, and he is calling in for his SITREP.
Check the Talk America Radio schedules for showtimes at talkamericaradio.us. We're back on ARC Midnight. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen, and our very special guest is Sidney Powell. Again, look for her book, folks, Licensed with a D, Licensed to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice. You can find it. I think you can get an autographed copy, right, Sidney? On licensedtolie.com. And you know what? I saw, and I was watching Hannity months ago, and Newt Gingrich brought up your book, and your book was written a few years ago. And when Gingrich mentioned it, it shot back up to the bestseller list on Amazon. I'm going, yes, finally, we're starting to see a break in the facade here. And it is corruption at such a deeper level than anybody ever thought. You talk about the DOJ, but we're seeing it now at the CIA with John Brennan, the FBI, the IRS, the DHS. It's all just the deep swamp. There's really no other way about it. And I wanted to get to what's going on with Michael Flynn, and the judge recused himself there, and then you've got McCabe getting ousted. If anything, we're seeing more movement and problems from the left because there's real legal problems there, as opposed to basically the anal exam they're putting Donald Trump through.
All right, but before we get into that, let's finish up with Mueller, okay?
Okay.
I want to explain in layman terms, Counselor, the role that Mueller played with Uranium One and why that's important for the listeners to understand.
I think Mueller was at the epicenter of a lot of the Uranium One activities. In fact, it's my understanding that he actually took the sample of uranium on the FBI jet over to Russia for the Russians to evaluate the uranium. And Mr. Weissman and Mr. Rosenstein signed off on some of the very quietly taken guilty pleas of some of the underlings that were prosecuted in relationship to that. So he knows all about all of it. And that's just one of the many conflicts I think he has in the investigation.
Well, maybe we could set up another special.
There.
Yeah, maybe we can set up a special investigation to investigate Bob Mueller.
Well, that's what I wanted Sessions to do, but he didn't do it. And Uranium One was a $145 million deal that went to the Clinton Foundation. Why would we give 20% of our uranium? Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. Bob Mueller was the FBI director at the time, correct? He was the I mean, this guy has so much. This is, and again, Sessions recuses himself for meeting Kislyak, or Kismayak, I call him, at a D.C. function. And Mueller is so deep in the weeds here, it's not even funny. It's just, it's insanity, really.
It is, and I hope at some point the Inspector General gets to the correspondence between Comey and Weissman and Rosenstein and Mueller that I'm guessing exists before the appointment of Mueller as special counsel. I just can't imagine as fast as that happened from the time of Comey's deliberate leaks to the New York Times of his conversations with President Trump, and within a week there's special counsel appointed, or maybe even the next day. It's a very short time frame. I mean, you don't just up and leave a law firm on 20 seconds notice. So that had to have been hatched before it was actually announced, and fairly well before it was officially announced. I'd love to know what that correspondence was.
You got to hand it to the Democrats. They hit the ground running. They did it when Barack Obama got elected. And unfortunately, I feel Trump really has to get his sea legs a little bit, and that's why we're a little slow getting ramped up here. And again, that's what a lot of people are saying about a second special counsel. It's going to take a while and maybe too much time to ramp up that situation. So if you can, Sidney Powell, talk about the legalities of having an investigator in Utah or a prosecutor in Utah versus D.C. They can't impanel a grand jury in Utah, then, if that's what it gets to?
No, I don't think they would have the requisite venue in Utah. I think it would have to be done out of D.C., where the offenses occurred. But that doesn't mean he couldn't do a special grand jury in D.C.
All right,
because
well,
once you're licensed in federal court, you can actually practice in any federal court on a simple motion. So I'm sure that could be handled. It's just kind of awkward for him to do it from Utah. And I think at this point, he's simply advising and recommending and coordinating with the Inspector General. As to my knowledge, there hasn't been any grand jury testimony, but if they're doing it right, they would also keep that quiet.
All right,
so we're just going to have to wait and see.
Sidney Powell, ladies and gentlemen, is our guest. And before we go to break at the bottom of this segment, Sidney, let's visit your book again. Please tell the listeners how they can find the book. I know that they can get autographed copies, and let's offer these listeners the bonus. You guys really want to send a note along with your purchase of Sidney's book at her website, and I too, Don Neuen, would be more than happy to autograph Sidney Powell's book along with her autographed copy. And that's kind of a bonus. Now,
I don't think so. I absolutely do not think so. It's not an added bonus.
You know, we've been offering this added bonus now for a couple of years, Sidney, and I don't think anybody's actually taken me up on this offer.
Zero.
Yeah, you know, and that, you know, I need a little bit of Bactine to cover the wound on that. But Sidney, explain. You got about a minute. Let's explain that book from you.
Well, License to Lie tells the true story of this corrupt cabal of prosecutors who have been infecting the Department of Justice, the White House, the FBI, and any other agency they've been involved with now for 10 to 12 years. The book came out in 2014. It wasn't written to help President Trump. It was written to spur bipartisan criminal justice reform and to hold prosecutors accountable. We need that even more now than we did when I wrote it, obviously. And it reads like a legal thriller, and it names names. It's all true. I staked my law license on it, and you can get it at licensedtolie.com or on Amazon.
And again, if you go to licensedtolie.com, you can get an autographed copy from Sidney Powell. Again, she's an attorney, the author of License to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice. And Sidney, when we come back after the break, for all you Lord of the Rings fans, I'm going to say, I think this whole big thing is to protect the precious. We got to protect the precious. That would be one Barack Obama. That's
Hillary,
coming up next.
And Hillary Clinton.
That's coming up next on ARC Midnight.
This is Denise Simon. 18 hours a day, I live in a world as an intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence analyst. Intelligence. What I find is reprehensible. What I find is terrifying. What I find is treasonous. 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 The mainstream media has completely failed the American people. 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 Join me for the Denise Simon Experience every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Donald Trump came to Washington vowing to drain the swamp and make government work for the American people. But the swamp creatures in D.C. aren't going down without a fight, and the deep state is determined to overturn the election and keep their gravy train rolling. In these turbulent times, it's critical for patriots to stay engaged and be prepared to defend this president. You can stay up to date on Trump's battle to make America great again by listening to America First Radio with Jim Dawes each weeknight at 10 p.m. Eastern on the Liberty Feed.
Accuracy and range are a necessity. Now comfort is an option as well. Nemo Arms introduces the Omen 300 Win Mag. The Omen 300 is perfectly balanced for reduced recoil, creating sub-minute of angle accuracy. And fit with the tightest of tolerances. The Omen is offered in carbine or full-length models with a 10 or 14-round magazine. American-made, owned, and designed, Nemo Arms is setting a new standard in modern sporting rifles. Find out more at NemoArms.com.
Levin, Malkin, Stein, and so much more. CRTV delivers the personalities you want, when you want them, anywhere you want to watch. CRTV brings you the brightest political and entertainment personalities you'll find anywhere. CRTV is a next-generation media company delivered digitally to all of your favorite devices. Get CRTV today.
Subscribe now and use the promo code Cowboy for special discounts only at CRTV.com.
Welcome back to ARC Midnight. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with Don Neuen. And we do thank John B. Wells for allowing us to sit in. Don and I typically host a show called Cowboy Logic Radio. I should explain to everyone that you started, Don, well, you're a cowboy, right? We have a horse farm. And you started on Facebook with your take on things, as Cowboy Logic, and we have blossomed into Cowboy Logic Radio.
Yeah, it started off as my diatribes on Facebook. Let me think when that took place. 2006 or 7, I believe.
Yeah, a while ago.
And got a lot of feedback from friends and followers on Facebook saying, "Hey, let's get a radio show going."
Mm-hmm.
So we did. We had the equipment, the technology's there. So we started Cowboy Logic Radio, and it has blossomed to the point where John B. Wells actually asked us to sit in and fill in for him, which is such an honor. But an equal honor here is the guest that we have on with us, a dear friend of ours that we've known for a number of years. We've had her as a guest on Cowboy Logic Radio countless times. I am a huge fan of her pink outfit, and ladies and gentlemen, if you ever see it, you too will be a fan of the pink outfit, and it travels well, by gosh.
Yes, you've seen her talk in that pink outfit on CPAC, and you've also seen her talk in that pink outfit on Sean Hannity's show, and she's on Sean's radio show many, many times as well. Sidney Powell is who we're talking about.
And Mark Levin, the great one, mentions her often. Sidney, have you been on Levin's show yet?
No, but he said he will have me on sometime soon. I just don't know when that is.
Well, he needs to, because he mentions you about once a week.
Yeah, because there's nobody that knows more about the corruption in the Department of Justice than you, Sidney Powell. And as I said earlier, going into the break, you wrote back in February of 2017 for Newsmax that we have to drain the DOJ swamp, but I think it's so much bigger than that. It's the CIA, it's the FBI, it's the IRS, it's the DHS. And Sidney, a lot of stuff that's starting to come out now, and it's in dribs and drabs, it's, that constant drip, 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 I think that's happening, is so much of this is pointing to the fact that the Barack Obama administration and Hillary Clinton had so much to do with this, and I believe, because so many people threw their eggs into that basket, that's really the reason why we're having such leg dragging when it comes back to really investigating this properly.
Oh, exactly. I mean, I've been saying for years that Obama politicized and weaponized every single federal agency, literally and figuratively. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, and it's going to take a while to root all of that out and try to restore the rule of law and some sort of objectivity to these agencies. That they lost it all during the Obama administration.
Well, we saw how the IRS targeted Tea Party groups. The Homeland Security, I don't know what's going on there. The FBI, obviously, the CIA, huge problems. You got Brennan up there and the NSA. You got Brennan up there criticizing a sitting president. I'm sorry, the former CIA director switched to becoming a Muslim when he was in the Middle East. I think he's very much aligned with this one world view order, which obviously was Barack Obama as well. And again, it's a huge, deep swamp. But Sidney Powell, I want to get to the whole thing of the judge being recused with Michael Flynn. And this, I believe the new judge is named Sullivan. He does things by the book. And this could be a huge turnaround for things, couldn't it?
Oh, it could, yes. I've got an article in the Daily Caller suggesting that Flynn withdraw his guilty plea or can at least consider that. Judge Emmett Sullivan in D.C. was named to be the judge in the Flynn case after Judge Rudy Contreras was recused. He didn't recuse himself. He just suddenly was off the case. People have now speculated that's because Stroke and Page, Stroke in particular, knew him, as reflected in recently disclosed text messages between the two, calling him Rudy and suggesting that they stage a meeting at a cocktail party or something so he could talk to him off the record about whatever he wanted to talk to him about, presumably the FISA warrant applications. But my theory is that Contreras actually signed one of the FISA warrant applications.
Oh. All right, let me ask you this, Sidney, and help me out in layman terms here. To withdraw a guilty plea, first of all, as a guy that's not a student of the legal system very much here, I didn't even know you could do that. But how do you withdraw a guilty plea, and what effect would that have on this investigation that's so slanted against General Flynn?
Well, it requires a substantial change, but it can be done by motion. 2 guilty pleas were withdrawn in cases Mr. Weissman had a hand in on the Enron task force. David Duncan, the Arthur Anderson partner who pled guilty and actually testified against Arthur Anderson on behalf of the government in the case, was allowed to withdraw his guilty plea because what Weissman had bludgeoned him into pleading guilty to wasn't an offense. My guess is that Flynn has a very strong duress argument. He was probably threatened with the indictment of his son if he didn't plead. And I think we're going to find out that McCabe had some hand in altering the 302s, the FBI reports, on the basis of which Flynn was charged with making the false statements in his interview, because we know Comey testified to Congress that the FBI agents who interviewed him thought he was telling the truth about his recollection of that phone call. And remember, they ambushed him with that meeting. He just talked to him the day before. He was brand new in the White House and thought he was talking to friends on a relatively casual basis who were looking at trying to do the same things he was looking to do. So the whole thing was a setup. But even Stroke, who despised Donald Trump, thought Flynn was telling the truth in that interview about what he remembered.
It's pretty ironic because he's totally, here we have a decorated general, and he's totally ruined financially and probably emotionally too. He's had to sell his house. And again, because of this guy, Andrew Weitzman, who basically withholds evidence from the people he's looking at. And then you have a situation where Susan Rice goes ahead and goes and gets a job at Netflix or wherever the heck she is.
I'm not watching Netflix anymore.
The whole double standard is just unbelievable. It's absolutely unbelievable. Sidney Powell, real quick.
Yeah, the double standard's crazy. Judge Sullivan, the judge who has the Flynn case now, is the judicial hero of my book, License to Lie, because he threw out the conviction against long-term Senator Ted Stevens and vacated that jury verdict, and then turned the investigation on the Department of Justice itself. He entered an order in this case requiring Mueller to turn over all the evidence to General Flynn, all the exculpatory evidence. Now, we can't presume that Mueller and his squad have turned over absolutely everything, but my guess is, given they know Judge Sullivan's on the case, they were more diligent about it than Weissman would have been in the Enron cases, where he had a judge who was just a shill for the prosecution.
LicensedToLie.com, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to give that to you one more time before we go to break. Make sure you get something to write with. I would suggest that you go to LicensedToLie.com to purchase this book, as opposed to Amazon. Not a big fan of Bezos, but no. I do use Amazon. I got to be transparent here, but let's go directly to the source to buy that. We'll give you that website one more time before we go to break. But back to you, Donna.
Well, it's licensed with a D, licensedtolie.com. Sidney Powell will personally autograph that book, too. Sidney, we're out of time. I wanted to thank you so much for joining us here on ARC Midnight and the Salem Radio Network. Keep up the great work. Folks, if there's anybody who knows what's going on, exposing the corruption of the Department of Justice, it's attorney and author Sidney Powell, because she's been there, she's done that, and she's seen all this stuff going on firsthand, and that is a big, big problem, and we got to drain the swamp. Sidney, thanks so much for joining us here on ARC Midnight.
Thank you.
And coming up next, folks, we'll be talking to Curtis Ellis. He is a senior policy advisor for Donald Trump, traveling the country right now with Mike Pence. That's coming up next on ARC Midnight.
Let me talk to you, black people. When you vote for blacks and put them in office under the banner of the Democrat Party, please explain to me what black people get as a result. This was not a nap that we have been taking. We are in a coma. You know what the interesting thing about pensions is? That's today's money given to people who ain't doing nothing for you today. Get off that black Democrat tit that they've been sucking on. Your country is being stolen from you, and the promise is being stolen from your children, and they're telling you it's all right while the rest of the world is trying to lap us. Well, why are we doing so poorly? 2 words: teachers' unions. Are you kidding me?
Black Man Thinking, Monday nights, 9 p.m.
Welcome back to ARC Midnight. I'm Donna Fiducia, along with my husband, Don Neuen, who's about to blurt his name out.
No, I'm not, Donna. I'm going to behave this segment.
Why?
Do you know why?
No.
Because we've got Curtis Ellis on with us, and I am not going to act like a fool. Back to you, Donna.
You say that because when we first met Curtis Ellis, and we had him on our show, Cowboy Logic Radio, at cowboylogic.us, folks, he worked for the American Jobs Alliance, focusing on the global elites versus the American people. And he writes for WorldNet Daily. That's still going on. But he has since gone up the Ivory Tower elevator, Curtis? The golden elevators at Trump Tower? You've worked? What is it like in that damn elevator? That's what I want to know. You worked out of Trump Tower, including work on the Trump transition team. You became a senior policy advisor on the Trump campaign. You served as the Trump administration's special advisor to the Secretary of Labor. And you are now currently, Curtis Ellis, a senior policy advisor for the America First policies, and you can find that at americafirstpolicies.org. Curtis Ellis, it's so great to talk to you again. I mean, we knew you when.
Yeah, wow. I'll tell you, and I used to listen to you on the radio here at WNEW-FM in New York, so this is like a dream come true to talk to Donna Fiducia and her husband.
That guy.
Who nobody knows who I am. Hey, but Curtis, given the fact that you used to listen to Donna on WNEW up in New York, let's talk a little bit of the New York lingo, okay? Because I'm really honing my skills, all right? So, no, we got time to do this. All right, so here we go, Curtis. Just follow along with me. How you doing?
Right.
How you doing?
No, forget about it.
Hey, you doing okay? I'm doing okay.
I'm doing okay. What you got going?
Hey, I got going a little bit of everything. Hey, Donna, how you doing?
Hey, I have my girl call your girl.
Is that what? Hey, I need to let everybody know something about how instrumental Curtis Ellis was in the election of Donald Trump as the President of the United States. And, Curtis, you have no idea what I'm about to bring up, but I hope you'll remember it.
Yeah, I don't either.
I know. We don't use scripts here.
Okay.
All right? Curtis, back in, I believe, August of 2016, early August of 2016, Donna Fiducia sent you an email. And in that email, we were seeking permission from Trump to actually wrap one of the big 45-foot buses that my company owns and brand it, promoting the election and the campaign of Donald J. Trump for president. And we sent you, I believe, artwork. We sent you the concept of what we wanted to do. And you happened to be standing at the time, I believe, next to Kellyanne Conway.
Mm-hmm.
And at which point you said, hey, Kellyanne. You probably said, hey,
yo, Kellyanne.
What do you think about this idea? And she liked the idea. We ran it up the legal flagpole. We had to put a couple of disclaimers on the sides of the bus. But I'm here to tell you, sir, that since that day, we have pulled that bus out of our money-making fleet of 60 buses. We wrapped it, and all through August, September, October, and part of November, we canvassed the state of Georgia with that bus branded, which is called the Trump bus. And in my opinion, we helped elect Donald Trump. And the thing is,
you sure did.
We did not unwrap it. It is still wrapped. It is still almost on a weekly basis attending conservative functions, Republican functions all over the state of Georgia to help reelect Donald Trump, because we changed it from 2016 to 2020. So I just wanted to let you know that, at a monthly revenue loss of probably $15,000 to $18,000.
Oh my gosh!
I'm telling you,
if it were leased out to
that's the kind of money that bus would make if I was leasing it to paying clients. We have taken that bus off.
That's a great example of. You're exactly right. That is how Donald Trump got elected and became President Trump, because of people like you all over the country. There are people who are doing things that we in Trump Tower, the official campaign, had no idea about and had no hand in creating, but people took it upon themselves. It was like the Minutemen on Concord Green.
That's right.
They stepped up and they did their duty to save the country and to elect Donald Trump president. And that story is probably repeated 10,000 times.
Well, so, all the years I worked in New York, I've passed Trump Tower a million times, never actually been inside. So let's start name dropping here. We mentioned Kellyanne Conway. You've been up in those golden elevators going back and forth up into the Trump, I guess where the whole thing started. I mean, his campaign actually came down when he came down that escalator or elevator and announced his running for president back in 2015, 2016. But I want to drop another name here, a biggie, Curtis Ellis, and that is Vice President Mike Pence. You are traveling with Mike Pence right now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, America First Policies. We're a nonprofit organization. We're not a PAC. We don't get involved in electoral politics. We're about America First policies, the policies to put America first. We are doing a tour around the country. We've done about a dozen stops so far. Tax cuts to put America first. And we've been all over the place, from Fargo, North Dakota, to Atlanta, Georgia, and everywhere in between. And Vice President Pence is our special invited guest, and he comes in. He's a keynote speaker. We do a panel discussion with some local people, local business people, some of the local elected folks, to talk about the tax cut and the impact they're having on business and families and whatnot. And then Vice President Pence stops in and gives a speech. And he talks about all kinds of things. And he definitely takes a whack at some of the people up for election in that area. But he talks about the promises made and the promises kept. I mean, we have a president who, unlike politicians, he actually keeps the promises he made during the campaign. So I am spending a lot of time with the vice president backstage. And he's a very gracious guy, very warm, very friendly. And after his speech, he comes backstage and greets the panelists, greets the people who've been nice enough to give their time and come down and talk about the tax cuts and everything else, economic growth. And I'll tell you, we've just been getting huge crowds, like 1,000 people. We do it at a hotel, generally like in a hotel ballroom, a conference center, something like that, convention center, and huge crowds. We've had to turn people away, and it's really exciting, and people are really into it. They are fired up. And the reason we're doing this, one of the reasons, is you don't hear about really what the through the fake media, the corporate news media, you get one side of a story, and I wouldn't even say it's the story. You get this drumbeat of negativity. They'll tell you these are tax cuts for the rich, or they'll, say this or that. Instead of just giving you the facts, giving you the information, let's hear what the facts are and let people make up their own minds. They get into this whole thing. So we're out there to give the facts, and I've heard incredible stories. One of the people on our panel, and sometimes he's the moderator of the panel, is from this big tax firm, tax preparation, tax advisors to like the Fortune 50 companies. So I've heard from him, and in Council Bluffs, we had somebody on the Iowa Economic Development, head of the Economic Development Department. These people go around the world getting people to invest in the United States, and they say for the first time in a generation, they're getting people knocking the doors down. They want to come invest in the United States. It used to be these American companies wanted to invest overseas because they were just taxed and regulated to death here in America. But now it's switched. They want to invest in America. The tax advisors they were asking, how can we hide our money offshore, are now saying, how can we bring our money back?
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's a
great
huge
thing.
Curtis,
It's
let me.
huge.
It's bigly. It's bigly. I'm telling you, it's bigly.
It's going to be so huge. You're going to get so sick of winning.
Yeah.
I'm
You're
so
going to
sick
get
of winning,
so
Curtis.
sick of bringing your money back into the United States, ladies and gentlemen.
Please
Curtis.
stop. Please stop. I can't take it anymore.
Hey, Curtis, let me ask you this. Mike Pence, who I obviously have never met, nor have I ever interviewed, I've just seen him on television, seems like the real deal. He seems like a down-to-earth, just like you were mentioning, individual. Let me ask you this. Look, prognosticate and look into that crystal ball. Is this the kind of individual, in your opinion, that in 2024 could possibly take over the helm and become the president of the United States, hopefully for another 8 years, and we would experience an unbelievable 16 years of conservatism running this country from the White House?
No, definitely, definitely. He's very serious. He's dedicated. He cares about the country. He wants to make America great again. He wants to make America better, preserve it, and he's a man of faith and deep conviction. And he's definitely ready. You know, he's very serious. He's out there on the road, doing these events and, doing things to support the candidates to hold on to the House of Representatives and to elect more conservatives to the Senate in November. And he's working just day and night, and he's enjoying it, and he's loving it because he knows why he's doing it. It's for the good of the country. And yet, definitely, 2024, he's ready. He'll be there, God willing.
We'll have to rewrap the bus.
Well, yeah, but is it something that he's interested in doing?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I haven't asked him directly, but from all indications, yes.
Hey, do me a favor, ask him and then call us back so we can have the scoop on that, will you?
Yeah, hold on a second here. Let me get him on the other line.
Just bring him in.
Busy. The line's busy. Somebody else must be asking him the same
How cool is this?
question.
We know Curtis Ellis, and he has a direct line to the Vice President and the President of the United States. How cool is that?
Well, more importantly, and even more cool than that, is he used to listen to you on NEW.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
God, that was another life, and that was decades before the Fox News Channel hired me, too.
Curtis, when we get back from the break, we got to go to a break here in about 30, 40 seconds. But when we get back from the break, you brought up something that I want to spend a little time on, and that is these midterms. I've got huge, bigly concerns about the midterms and the way Republicans are going to play it. So if you don't mind, when we get back from the break, let's get into that a little bit, because we need a little fire lit under the butts of conservatives to get out there and make this happen.
I absolutely am happy that Trump tweets, because that's the only way you can get around the fake news with all this stuff going on. Again, we'll be back with Curtis Ellis. Find him at AmericaFirstPolicies.org. And he is part of the Trump administration. We'll be back with more on ARC Midnight after this.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance, yes. When cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance, yes. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don Neuen. And this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance, yes. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
to ARC Midnight. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm still Don Neuen, ladies and gentlemen. I can't tell you what a thrill it is to spend the evening with you. And I'm sure that's a mutual feeling.
Are you done?
Well, no, but
I want
to
thank John B. Wells for this opportunity to let us fill in.
John B. Wells, for allowing Donna and I to fill in. Let me be the first to thank you for that, John. Listen, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, you were just the second. I heard her thank him first.
Hey, that's what I do. You know, she's a New Jersey Italian that spent her entire adult life in the mainstream media, in front of a camera and in front of a microphone. You know, when we get
kind of like Snooki.
Yeah.
Hey, and I get more money than Hillary Clinton for a speech now.
yeah, you do. And you have more people attend it. All right, so Donna, go ahead and reintroduce our esteemed guest.
Did you know that Snooki got more money at the last appearance at Rutgers University than Hillary Clinton did? She got more. Yeah. Snooki got more money.
But I do have to make fun of Rutgers University's football field, because it looks like a middle school football field down here in the great state of Georgia, where we take football seriously. Back to you, Donna.
Sure beats Seton Hall, which doesn't even have a football team anymore.
What is the sport they play with brooms?
Lacrosse, lacrosse. Yeah. Okay, fine. Anyhow, Curtis Ellis is our guest, and we do thank him for hanging in through this lunacy. Curtis, again, when we met you, you were with the America Jobs Alliance, and you're talking about
Speaking of lunacy.
Yeah, really. But the thing is, the problem, this is, to me, Barack Obama was an attack on America and American economics, big time. And Donald Trump is not. And you were a senior policy advisor on the Trump campaign. You worked in Trump Tower. You worked with the Trump transition team. And now you're currently, again, senior policy advisor for America First Policies. And you can find it at americafirstpolicies.org. And we did all that name dropping. You asked Kellyanne Conway about our Trump bus that Star Coaches had. You travel with Mike Pence. I mean,
You're a big guy. Yeah. You're a big guy.
He's big.
All right, Curtis, before we went to break, we got a serious problem on our hand. We're going to put all the joking aside here for a minute, because we do have a problem, and that's called the midterms. And it's due to a couple of things, I believe, and you can correct me or quite frankly substantiate my concerns if you want. But the bottom line is, I believe that conservatives, the Trump base, has become slightly complacent and comfortable because we got our guy in. Now let's sit back and relax a little bit. We did all this hard work to get him elected, and I think that the aggressiveness, let's get on let's play offense for a while, has waned a bit. That's the first thing. The second thing is, liberals are absolutely rabid. All they want to do is destroy Trump and flip this House in November.
And they have no message.
The third thing is that you've got everybody on the planet working against conservatism and Donald Trump. You got the mainstream media, you got academia, you've got these millennials now that are nothing but pawns of the left.
You have John McCain.
And you've got people in our own party.
Lindsey Graham-Nesty.
So the only way that we're going to keep the House in November, and that we're going to get Trump reelected in 2020, and then Pence in 24 and 2028, is going to be if the voter base does its job as it did when we elected Donald J. Trump. Your thoughts?
I agree with you. Yeah, I think it's a very good analysis. Number one, the complacency. Republican turnout in the midterms tends to go down, and not as much as the Democrats in a typical year, but it does decline a little. However, you have to remember the Trump voter is not your typical Republican. We had a lot of independents and a lot of crossovers. After a huge victory like that, after the hard work that went into electing him president, there's some complacency. Whereas on the other side, they are absolutely on fire. They are coming out of the graves. They're coming out of the hills. They're coming out of the trees to vote against Donald Trump. And the way they're going to do it, they see as a vote for a Democrat and flip the House. And then it's going to be impeachment. That's going to be the first order of business. Make no mistake. We have to motivate everybody who voted for Donald Trump to come out and vote this November. And people don't understand. They know what the president is, but they don't understand the importance of voting on this off presidential year. And that's not disparaging their intelligence. Let me tell you something. When I worked for CNN, I was a writer and producer on the Lou Dobbs Tonight Show. And about 10, 12 years ago.
That was when CNN wasn't really totally fake news. I love Lou Dobbs.
Yeah, when it wasn't totally fake news. And Lou Dobbs had a 6 p.m. newscast every night. And one of the top producers on the show, she said to me, how often is the House of Representatives up for election? Like, this is like grade school civics class.
A producer
every 2 years. Yeah, actually asked me that. This is a top producer at CNN. Ask me, like, when is the House of how often do they run for office? It's like, okay, we're in trouble now. So a lot of people don't appreciate that, and they don't appreciate that if the Democrats take over the House, first thing they're going to do is try to burn down the White House, impeach Donald Trump, and then the second thing they're going to do is burn down your house. They're going to repeal these tax cuts, do everything they can to gum up President Trump's America First agenda. They're going to try to reverse everything, all the progress he's made. It's going to be a holy mess, and they must be stopped. And part of the problem is the Republicans, the Republican candidates, the members of the House of Representatives that are up for re-election. A good number of them don't understand and don't understand what President Trump has done, what he stands for, and refuse to get on the Trump train.
I agree, Curtis.
They are like,
exactly.
He tweets, and like, I wish he wouldn't tweet.
I know, and the problem is,
my gosh, I heard about this Stormy person, and it's like, I just don't want to be associated with that president.
They're part of the deep
That's
swamp.
how you lose elections, my friends.
Okay,
that's
Curtis,
how you
hold
lose.
that thought. We got to take a break here. We'll be back more with Curtis Ellis on ARC Midnight right after this.
Hi, this is Denise Simon, the host of the Denise Simon Experience. I feel compelled to tell you people that Don Neuen is my favorite talk radio host, period. Not Mark Levin, not Rush Limbaugh. I can't do this.
Do it, Denise. Read it. Read it, Denise.
Not Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham, but yep, Don Neuen. Cowboy Logic Radio is featuring the ever-stellar, highly gifted Don Neuen, right here on Talk America Radio.
This is Don Neuen with Cowboy Logic Radio. On behalf of my beautiful co-host, Donna Fiducia, I'd like to express my gratitude to Denise Simon for those kind words. I don't think I could have done it better if I would have written that myself. Cowboy Logic Radio, every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Talk America Radio.
With Curtis Ellis on ARC Midnight. Curtis,
I'm back with Curtis Ellis, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm Don Neuen. Back to you, Donna.
I hated to cut you off before we had to go to that break because you were on a roll. You're currently Senior Policy Advisor for America First Policies. Find it at americafirstpolicies.org. He's been traveling the country with Mike Pence. He's a senior advisor to Trump, the transition team, and also a senior administration advisor to the Secretary of Labor for the Trump administration. And Curtis, before the break, we were talking about how we really have to watch out.
Whining Republicans.
Yeah, we really, and you know what? The thing is, they're all part of the deep swamp. That really is the problem, and they don't learn from history. I just don't get it.
They don't care about history,
The
Donna.
Republicans shoot themselves in the foot. They take part in the circular firing squad, however you want to put it, but the Democrats circle the wagons. And the Democrats really don't have a message except, we hate Donald Trump. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's their message, and it's working in getting the Democrats to come out and vote. Unfortunately, look, the Republicans spent a lot of money to do an autopsy after Mitt Romney lost in 2012 to try to figure out why did he lost. They never spent a nickel trying to understand why Donald Trump won. They haven't. So the Republican Party, the Republican National Committee, and all of these guys up for election this year, a lot of them still don't understand how President Trump won against the odds, against the experts, against the polling, and everything else got it wrong. He is not your typical Republican. He is not your, National Review, Conservative Digest, all these magazines that nobody reads and nobody cares about, but they all wander around like zombies in Washington, inculcated in this dogma. It's like how many conservatives can dance on the head of a pin kind of nonsense. Donald Trump's talking to real people about the things that matter. Jobs, our country, sovereignty. Why are we being played for fools on the world stage? We're not going to let it happen anymore. They don't get it. And then they get distracted by all the nonsense that you see on CNN, and they still want to. There's some of these people, there's still part of them that wants the approval of all the experts, of the elite.
I always look at it, Curtis, as like the in crowd. We all want to be part of the in crowd, which is ridiculous. I want to talk about China. I'm going to get to your WorldNet Daily piece in just a minute. But the thing is, a lot of people say, drain the swamp, and that's true. But I think it's more like the cesspool. The swamp is a viable ecosystem. The cesspool is what needs to be drained and cleaned
Donna
out.
Fiducia, the environmentalist. We want to preserve the swamp, but drain the cesspool.
Well, hold on a second, Donna. Curtis, let me ask you this. There's a lot of stuff going back and forth, a lot of talking heads that you find on TV that are discussing the issue of the tax cuts as well as the tariffs that are being placed. And I'd like to go to you, the authority on this stuff, to give us the good, bad, and the ugly as to what's really going on with these tariffs, how they're going to affect, the steel companies, and then the trickle-down effect that they're going to have on American workers, guys trying to build cars, guys trying to sell cars, among other things that involve this. What's the real that we need to know behind the tariffs and then also the new tax plan?
Okay, so let's just be clear so everybody gets it, because we've done a lot of polling and research on this. A tariff is not a cross between a terrier and a mastiff. A tariff it's a tax on imports, right? That's what it is. So we're talking about taxes on imports, taxing things that are imported from China or from other countries. And basically what we want, what President Trump wants, and what, good common sense says, we're going to put a tax on your imports at the same level that you tax ours. So when we export something to your country, if you put a 25% tax on it, we're going to put a 25% tax on what you send to our country. Unfortunately, that's not what's been going on. China has been putting 10 times more tax on what we send them, and they get a deal when they send stuff to us, right? So we'll have a 2.5% tax on their imports coming from China into the U.S. When America sends stuff into China, 25% tax. That's not fair, not right, not going to happen anymore. That's what President Trump says. Now, there's a couple of different things going on. We brought China into the World Trade Organization back in 2000. We said, China's going to become part of the trading system of the world. It's going to be great. There's going to be 1 billion more customers for American goods and the output of our factories. We're going to be able to sell it in China. That hasn't happened because China puts these huge taxes on imports of American goods coming into China. What they do allow the Americans to sell in China are the machines that make the stuff that they then sell back to the United States.
Right.
And they have, and they tell an American company that wants to do business in China, you have to have a Chinese partner, business partner, 51% Chinese owned, your factory.
So it's like a public-private partnership with the government.
Yeah, exactly. Because every business,
which Obama was trying to do
any
here,
business owner in China is hooked into the Communist Party over there.
Exactly, but Obama's trying to do that here. Look what he did with all the solar stuff and everything.
Well, and so are John Kerry's sons and Joe Biden's
sons. Kids.
I mean, it's crony capitalism is what it is. China's not a capitalist system. It's communist, and it's government controlled, and they got their cronies and all their buddies then get a slice of the action. But it gets worse in that then they tell the American company, you've got to give this partner all of your technology. You got to give them the blueprints, the trade secrets, the copyrights. You've got to show them how to make everything. So then what happens is the Chinese then take all that information and hand it off to a friend who sets up an independent company that goes in direct competition with the American business that went into partnership with a Chinese partner. And what we don't give them, what we don't hand over willingly, they steal. The People's Liberation Army, that's the Chinese Red Army, the People's Liberation Army has an entire division of hackers. Yep. And they've been hacking into corporations, academic institutions, research centers, and governments to steal trade secrets. And Curtis, to steal technology, which they then use to set up Chinese companies.
Absolutely. And we can read all that in your WorldNet Daily piece that just came out. Curtis Ellis, folks, please look for that. We have only about a minute left. Real quick, I want to know your take on Larry Kudlow and if we're going to get a second wave of tax reform from the Trump administration like he's been saying.
Kudlow's a good man. He's Trump doesn't take orders from anybody, but Kudlow's a good man, experienced. He was in the Reagan administration. Just want to finish up one thing on the tariff business. So when people say, "Oh, how's it going to affect Americans who might have to pay a little bit more, about a penny more on a 6-pack of beer or soda," what price will you pay to defend the future of America? Because a lot of people have died for our independence, and we're about to lose it because China is out to take us over.
Absolutely, and not only are they doing it in industries, they're doing it with our military assets, and those assets that you're talking about with regard to China, they're not only hacking, they're in our universities and colleges. They are there.
Absolutely. There's no price you can put on that. Curtis Ellis, folks, read him in WorldNet Daily. Look for his work, AmericaFirstPolicies.org, as he works in the Trump administration closely on economic topics. And Curtis, again, thank you so much for joining us here on ARC Midnight.
It's a privilege and an honor. I mean it. Thanks so much.
All right. Coming up after the break, we'll be talking to Karen Watson, author of Being Black and Republican in the Age of Obama. It's coming up next on ARC Midnight.
Remove the jobs, break the schools, pull back the police. Let the streets flood with drugs. Let violent gangs recruit child soldiers and terrorize neighborhoods. Don't prosecute gun crimes. And when the media looks you in the eye after another bloody weekend in a major American city, call for more gun control. If our politicians are truly using the carnage they refuse to stop to attack the rights of honest, hardworking Americans caught in living hell, then they are guilty of the most despicable form of racism imaginable. What has been allowed to happen in our inner cities is an absolute disgrace. If the same epidemic of poverty, gang violence, and broken schools poison the neighborhoods of the nation's political class, you'd better believe they'd be talking about real solutions, not gun control. I'm the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
back to ARC Midnight on the Salem Radio Network.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me be the first to welcome you back to this absolutely riveting radio show. Back to you, Donna.
He's so modest, isn't he, folks? I'm Donna Fiducia, former Fox News Channel anchor, and if the name does sound familiar, I worked in a lot of the fake news organizations in New York City for close to 30 years. My husband, as you just heard, Don Neuen, and I host Cowboy Logic Radio. And you can find us at cowboylogic.us. And again, we do have the great honor to fill in for John B. Wells on his show ARC Midnight tonight. And John, I'm sure, will be back, but he's taking a well-deserved vacation this holiday weekend.
Donna, listen, I have inside knowledge on this. John, right this moment, is listening.
Is he?
He is listening to this show. Why? Why, you ask?
Why?
Because I'm Don Neuen, and he has waited a very long time to be able to listen to me fill in on his show. Back to you, Donna.
I figure since it's Easter, he'll be sitting there listening to us eating his Peeps and chocolate bunnies.
You're the one that eats Peeps. I don't eat Peeps. All right, let's get back to... let's put on our game face.
Yes.
Let's get real serious, okay?
Yes. And that person you hear laughing at you, Don, in the background, is one Karen Watson.
She's laughing with me,
No, she's
Donna.
laughing at you. John,
she's not.
Well, I won't get in the middle of that.
Come on, Karen. Tell everybody that you're laughing with me, please.
I'm laughing. I'll leave it at that.
There you go. Anyhow, Karen, let me introduce you formally here. You are a lawyer, an author, a Tar Heel, and a producer. And you wrote a book back in 2012, that fateful year when Barack Obama got reelected, called Being Black and Republican in the Age of Obama. Being Black and Republican in the Age of Obama. You can find Karen at GOPbuzz.com. That's Facebook as well. And Karen Watson is also the new vice chair for the Dallas County, Texas GOP. I say Dallas, Texas because there are some Dallases in other states, but that's the biggie. Dallas, Texas, you're the new vice chair for the Dallas County GOP. And Karen Watson, welcome to ARC Midnight. How you doing?
I'm great. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to be on your show.
Karen, thank you for tolerating me. Now, I have I want to start this whole thing off with something that I'm extremely concerned about. And given the fact that you're heading up the GOP there in Dallas, going through the big D, and don't mean Dallas. That's a country song for any of you liberals that have no idea what I'm talking about. Karen, let me ask you this. I have a big concern that the House is going to flip at the midterms. And I'd like to get your thoughts and your take. I hope that you agree that this is a serious issue, and your role as the head of the GOP there in Dallas, Texas, we got to get voters out there. They must vote Republican. They cannot stay at home during the midterms. Your thoughts on that?
That's absolutely correct. And I am not, coming from Dallas, you have to at least know something about football. And I know that the Democrats are favored, but we've seen, just like the previous Super Bowl, the favorite doesn't always win because you can't give up the fight. So, and then when everyone was expecting New England Patriots to win, they didn't win. That because the other team didn't stop fighting. So what we have to do, it is not November. We have all the way up until November to engage, to get messaging right, to get our base activated, to let people understand why we're Republican and why being a Republican matters for them and their families and for just their basic livelihood of lower taxation, regulation, and just supporting the great agenda of what Donald Trump has already laid out, which is to make America great again. That is something that we should all be a part of and get behind, but we've got to do the work. If we don't do the work, we will lose.
But what does Donald Trump have to do, short of standing on his head? I mean, he gets up there every day, says we have the lowest black unemployment in history now, the second lowest for Hispanics, and the Democrats have hijacked the black vote. And like Malcolm X said, if you keep voting for the same party that promises you over and over again, and they deliver nothing, I'm paraphrasing here, but you're not only a chump, but you're a traitor to your race. The Democrats haven't done anything for the black community short of keeping them on the public dole, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, and my opinion, too. And the facts prove that. The sad thing about it is that too often, too many black Americans don't know the truth about the parties. And when you even go so basic as to tell them, you know, that Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president, they're like, what? Surprisingly. And it's the continued lies of the left that have made black Americans and so many others believe that the Republican Party is just a racist party. And we don't stand up to counter that lie. And a lie told over and over and over again becomes the truth in people's mindset. So even though you can say, well, look to this and look to that, we haven't stood up and said, are you kidding? The Republican Party is not racist. The Republican Party is not sexist. The Republican Party is not homophobic. The Republican Party is not son of Satan. And until we do that, everything that we do is going to have the patina of all of those ad hominem attacks. Because if Barack Obama had done half of the achievements that Donald Trump has done just to date, and people don't even understand, he hasn't even filled out the second year of his term. But if Barack Obama, as far as lowering taxation, the increase of wealth, the rise in the stock market, the deregulation, if he had done half of that, they would have been building, oh my gosh, monuments to him. They would have been, ringing the bell about how amazing he was. But since it's Trump, and Trump is a Republican, it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. We can not pay attention to that. And that's the danger of what's happening to this country, is that we're so splintered, and we need to stop that.
I agree 100%. Here's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. In 2016, the big issue, at least in my opinion, was we had to do everything possible to prevent Hillary Clinton from being elected as the president of the United States. That was the number one thing. Whether you were a Ted Cruz supporter or a Marco Rubio supporter or, God forbid, John Kasich supporter or a Trump supporter, the bottom line was this. You had to unify as conservatives and libertarians and say, you know what, we got to do everything possible to not have Hillary Clinton elected. Well, the same thing holds true in the midterms that are coming up in November. We have to do everything possible to prevent the House from being flipped. Now, the thing that Donna brought up is, what more can Trump do? Well, Trump doesn't have to do anything more. The guy's working, as a guy that's in his 70s, harder than most of us that are in our 30s, 40s, and 50s combined. So Trump doesn't need to do anything else. What needs to happen is the voter base, the Republicans and the Libertarians that are absolutely fed up and not interested in having this left-wing nutcase mentality that's infected states like California, Illinois, and New York.
New Jersey.
And New Jersey.
My home state.
End up flipping this House. Because I'm telling you something, Karen, if the House flips, the next 3 years are going to, the next 2 years are going to be absolutely nothing but impeach 45. Maxine Waters is going to get up there, and she's going to blab that out 24/7. And they're going to start replacing people like Nancy Pelosi, who are so antiquated that they should have been gone years ago. They're going to start replacing them with young blood, radical, nutcase leftists that are going to try to do everything they can to prevent Trump from even waking up in the morning.
History repeats if you don't learn from it. And that's the problem, Karen.
The key is people like Karen and the people in the cities like Dallas, Texas, and their surrounding communities getting up off the couches, getting up after long work weeks, and getting out on weekends, going to things at night, mobilizing the voter base, and becoming aggressive about winning, just like the left wing is. Because right now they are more aggressive and determined than we are.
They're fighting for their life. And we have to start fighting for our lives.
That's right.
I mean, this is a battle. And you're so right. We have got to be the torchbearer, because if you're so right, if we allow, and I say allow because this is not in stone, but if we allow for the Democrats to win and take over the House, the next 2 years will be horrific. And then if, God forbid, we allow them to deny Trump a second term, then it's, the nightmares begin again.
Well, we'll end up with somebody like Terry McAuliffe in there and Kamala Harris. And if we end up with them in office in 2020, we're done. We are absolutely done.
And what really scares me, Karen Watson, is that we're not learning from history. The only people who do well in a socialist/communist regime, which is what the Democrat Party is leaning toward, are the people at the top. The Bernie Sanders that get, 2 or 3 houses. You got these idiots up there during the anti-gun rally in D.C. touting gun control with armed bodyguards behind them. They're the biggest hypocrites on earth. We were talking earlier about how the Republicans are getting, a lot of the Democrats are so surprised to hear that Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. And do they know that Robert Byrd was a Klan grand wizard? He was the head of the Democrats, the Senate, and no one talks about that. And
no one talks about that.
The history is repeating here so blatantly, despite having alternates like Facebook, unfortunately, and other places where they could go for the real information instead of fake news.
Well, from the city that you're from, Karen, or that you're living in, Dallas, Texas, I guarantee you that 80% of the black Americans that are in that city have no idea that Lyndon B. Johnson, who is revered by the Democrat Party for being, the civil rights president, was the most bigoted, racist, nasty individual on the planet. Never once voted for a civil rights bill, and basically said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't use the words that Lyndon B. Johnson said, we are not going to make it to where blacks can ever vote Republican again. They will vote Democrat for the rest of their lives, and we're going to do it by giving them entitlements.
And he didn't use the word blacks.
No,
folks.
he didn't.
Look it up.
All right,
he did not.
Karen, we're going to come. We have to take a break here on ARC Midnight, and it's Donna Fiducia and Don Neuen in for John B. Wells tonight on ARC Midnight. Find our show at cowboylogic.us. We'll be back more with Karen Watson. She is the new vice chair for the Dallas County GOP. Karen, I want to talk about the message that the Republicans and the Democrats do or don't have coming up next on ARC Midnight.
Every day, the Smith & Wesson military and police line of firearms is tested, proven, and selected. The M&P is engineered and specifically designed to meet the requirements of professionals worldwide. Unmatched craftsmanship and reliability for defense, protection, and when life is on the line. The M&P. Advanced design, advanced performance.
Welcome back to ARC Midnight. I'm Donna Fiducia along with Don Neuen. Our show is Cowboy Logic Radio. Find us at cowboylogic.us. And we do thank John B. Wells for letting us in tonight. On the Salem Radio Network, we want to welcome folks all across the country. It's just a blast to be here. And our guest, our very special guest this hour is Karen Watson. Again, she has written the book, Being Black and Republican in the Age of Obama. She hails from Dallas, Texas, and she is the new vice chair for the Dallas County GOP. Karen, you are black, you are a Republican, you are conservative. How do you get the message across?
And you are a female.
Yes. God forbid you actually are successful.
Hold on, Don.
Did your husband tell you to be that way?
Yeah, there's a glass ceiling out
Oh my
there.
God! And I'm not married. You know,
Oh, she's single. Man, so there's no man to tell you how to act.
All right, Karen,
That's
hold on
why
a second.
You're conservative.
Hold on a second. I want to go back to the last thing that I was talking about in the previous segment. If you were going to look backward in time at a point when Lyndon B. Johnson was the president of the United States, in your opinion, based on your you being a student of history, how do you feel that Lyndon B. Johnson would have felt about you, Karen Watson, black, female, single?
I think he felt about me the way he felt about all black people, especially black women, as, you know, as a negative tone. Because when Lyndon Johnson, who hails from Texas, was not, he was not shy about how he felt about black Americans. It was Lyndon B. Johnson that told Hoover to push COINTELPRO, which was to go against and spy on a lot of black organizations, including the Black Panther Party and also SNCC, from where the Panther Party came from, and also from the SCLC, and along with Martin Luther King Jr. So that a lot of that came out of and through the directive of LBJ. And so LBJ was not a friend to black Americans. And then, of course, you have on the flip side of the fact that people celebrate Martin Luther King Jr., and I think he should be celebrated, but this is a man who we've granted a holiday for, and that holiday was because of Ronald Reagan, not because of LBJ or Carter or any of the other Democrats. That was a Republican that did that. So the sad thing is that the Republicans don't get the credit for the work we've done and the non-majority communities, and then crazy part about that is that the Democrats get our credit and we get their history.
Yeah, they're really flipping
the KKK.
it. They've done a 180 on it. Again, the KKK was the party of the Dixiecrats. That's the Democrat Party in the South. Talk a little bit about, if you would, the Second Amendment. Obviously, they're going for the jugular on this one, using the Hitler Youth, I call them. The Second Amendment was put in there to protect free slaves, correct?
Exactly. That's exactly correct, Donna. The NRA was specifically to protect the rights of freed slaves when they were being attacked by the armed KKK. And that KKK was started in Tennessee by the Democrats to protect them after they went back into the South after the end of the Civil War. So it's because we don't know our history that we've been manipulated by our history. But that's so important, because without the knowledge base of what has happened, then people don't have a foundation moving forward. And then they continue these lies of the left. The left continues to make black Americans out to be victims instead of victors, continues to harm us instead of help us. And hopefully that day is coming to an end, because more blacks voted for Donald Trump than they were expected to. And I'm hoping that trend continues as people wake up to say, you know what? We were not better off under Barack Obama. We were not better off under these programs of the left, and now we are. You see what I'm saying? So it's just a fact that now, especially on a job level, things are better. Are there still problems? Of course. Those problems need to be addressed and should be addressed. But to just wave the white flag and say, oh, well, let's just give it up and stay Democrats. Democrats need to start earning the vote of the black Americans, and they haven't. And they use the minority groups to bolster their own agenda, and as you said before, that agenda does not prosper them.
No, it doesn't.
So no.
And Karen, I've said this for years. Black Americans have outlived their usefulness to the Democrat Party. They outlived their usefulness about the first minute that Barack Obama ended up going in office. And the thing is, That's what black Americans need to understand, ladies and gentlemen. You guys that are listening to this show that happen to be black, you've outlived your usefulness to the Democrat Party. They're done with you. They've accomplished everything they needed to do by using that segment of our population.
Well, I actually think Americans have outlived their usefulness to the Democrat Party right now. Because if you look at it, they're fighting more for the rights of illegals
That's right.
than they are for Americans. Karen, we have just about a minute real quick in this segment. Tell us about your conference. You have a grassroots organization on how to get the message out. Can you break that down? And maybe we'll come back after the break to talk about that some more. Go ahead.
Lone Star Strategies is a group that we created, came out of grassroots. K. Carl Smith, you know him, he's part of that. C.S. Bennett, Taft Thompson, Marie Wood, Carol Ann Preston, and the list goes on. What we have come to the conclusion is that conservatives are not losing because of message. They're losing because of messaging. And until we train conservative candidates, campaign managers, grassroots workers, advocates to how to say and how to have the message, they're going to continue to lose. And we're having this conference in Dallas, Texas, April 23rd, 24th, 25th.
You know what, Karen? Let's come back and talk about that. Let's come back after the break and talk about that. We'll have more with Karen Watson. Find her at GOPbuzz.com. We'll come back after the break on ARC Midnight. Hi, this is Donna Fiducia.
And Don Neuen from Cowboy Logic Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't go to sleep every night completely fatigued from trying to restore America from the destruction that is taking place,
then you're simply not doing enough. Join us every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, for Cowboy Logic Radio.
Let the restoration begin.
Welcome back to ARC Midnight. I'm Donna Fiducia, and you are? There you go.
John B. Wells, ladies and gentlemen, and don't ever you forget that, please. Back to you, Donna.
You are not. You are Donald L. Neuen, and we are
I got to say this before we go into anything else. This has been an absolute honor tonight, ladies and gentlemen, to attempt to fill the shoes of John B. Wells. In my opinion, there is no one in radio that has better pipes than John B. Wells. And I know Donna knows what I mean when I say pipes. Ladies and gentlemen, those that you don't know, mean a voice for radio. He is number one.
He's one of the few that has a voice and a face for both radio and TV.
That attempt to sound like John B. Wells look like, I don't know.
They have a face for radio, but
Cannon.
not John.
The guy that plays Cannon on TV.
Yeah, no, John. I just happen to be watching the replays of Cannon. How that guy ever got a show, I have no idea.
We don't either. But Quinn Martin liked it.
Yes. But John has a face for both radio and television, and we do thank him so much for letting us.
But it is an honor, John.
It is.
Thank
you. It really is. On ARC Midnight. And again, folks, welcome to the ARC. We are broadcasting not from outer space, as John likes to say, but just kind of from
God's country.
God's country. Yes, let's.
We are broadcasting from God's country, and we are surrounded by the Second Amendment. Back to you, Donna.
We are surrounded by the Second Amendment. Our show with Don Neuen and Donna Fiducia is Cowboy Logic Radio. Find us at cowboylogic.us. And yes, folks, we have manure on our boots.
Do I have a face for television, too?
No.
Whoa! Yeah. Wait a minute, Fiducia.
Karen Watson
No
is our guest.
Frio, Fiducia. Not cool. Not cool.
That's his attempt at Hispanic lingo. Karen Watson, find her at GOPbuzz.com. And Karen, it's been a blast talking with you. You are the new vice chair for the Dallas County, Texas GOP. That's so cool. And just before the break, we had to cut you off there. You're talking to people like K. Carl Smith, the Frederick Douglass Foundation, trying to work at the grassroots level to get the message out really to the black community that the Democrats are not your friend. Tell us a little bit more about your upcoming get-together later on in April.
Well, our conference that we're doing is to, as you said, to show people how to message, because that's one of the things that the left is doing so well. Everyone's on a talking point. Everyone knows what to say, and yet we are not doing counter messaging. And we are bringing, as we say in Texas, we're bringing a knife to a gunfight. And so we're losing every single time. And all you have to do is add up all the casualties. When you look at what happened to Roy Moore in Alabama, when you're looking at what's happening to Laura Ingraham right now, it's not that these aren't capable people, but they're also messaging the way the left is creating the narrative. So we need to train people how to do that so that their message doesn't get sidelined and they can get off the ad hominem attacks that they're using against conservative messaging. So we're excited. We've got the tools. All we've got to do is have people to come in and do the work and learn the lessons and then go back out into their campaigns and their communities and let's win this deal. But we're not going to win it if we can't even, you have someone like Laura Ingraham who's getting off message because of some 17-year-old kid. When we're losing messages to children, we've got a problem. When Roy Moore, who had been there in Alabama forever, and yet his whole message got sidelined over a 40-some-odd-year allegation, we've got work to do. So in Dallas, April 23rd, 24th, and 25th, we will be showing people how to do the work and how to protect their message and create the narratives that are needed to insulate their campaigns against the ad hominem attacks of race and sex.
Here's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot win by constantly playing defense only. You have to play offense. And the thing is, with situations like Roy Moore, I mean, I'm not going to get into this in depth. I don't think Roy Moore should have ever been a candidate. I don't think that anybody should have ever put us in the position where we are creating a void in a current held seat in either the Senate, but especially the Senate, but the House as well. And in my opinion, that was a bad move from inception about placing Sessions as the AG because it created a void at a time when we didn't need a void. But I'm not going to get into that in depth.
Well, I think that Donald Trump is learning on the job about that. He should have not taken a lot of these congressmen out. We were lucky enough here in Georgia to have Karen Handel hold on to the job there against John Ossoff, despite $30 million being put in by the Republicans. But that's a seat that could have flipped as well. And it's a problem that we have coming up in the fall. And Laura Ingraham, and I'll tell you, I'm not a huge fan of Laura Ingraham, but I do respect her. She should never have apologized. I'm sorry. She's right. This kid is the Hitler Youth. There's a reason why this kid might not have gotten into some of the top colleges. I'm sure he's gotten accepted. I think he said later on other colleges have accepted him. But this kid is being a pawn. This kid is totally out of touch with what's really going on. He's an absolute pawn of the left, and they're taking it and running with it. He's got some 500,000 followers on Facebook, which is insane. And again, to me, or on Twitter, and to me, I think he's a perfect example that the voting age needs to be raised back up to 21 because these snowflakes don't have any idea what's going on anymore. The voting age came down to 18 during Vietnam. So did the drinking age. If you could fight for our country and die, you needed to have those rights. It's not happening now. We got the drinking age back up to 21. I think we should raise the voting age too, so these kids have a few more years to actually grow up and see what life is like. I'll get off my soapbox now. Karen Watson.
But my whole thing is that we have to even teach the youth. I mean, we can't wait till people grow up and get a job and pay taxes before they become conservative. There are people who get it, and they're in their teenage years, but we just have to do the work of educating these children so they know why we are a republic, why our nation is the way it is, what are the politics that matter for them, not just in their teen years, but in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s,
but
and
you're
beyond.
You're fighting the education system, though, Karen Watson. That's the problem.
Here's the thing, ladies.
They're being brainwashed.
I raised my boys to be conservative. I instilled conservative values in them. I taught them conservatism, and I ended up with two fine young conservatives. The parents that are listening to this show need to do their work. And you can you can raise a kid to be a conservative if you invest enough time and effort in it. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Or you can let the education system raise your children for you, and you're going to end up with a bunch of liberal pukes.
Yeah, that really is the problem.
I mean, who's older than Bernie Sanders and he's a socialist? So it's not just age. It's that, we have to do the work and letting people know what our story is. It's not just saying, well, they'll grow up. Because look how old Bernie Sanders is, and he's, my gosh. So we can let children know why America is a great country. And that's just the work that we must do.
I think of Austin Powers. There's nothing more pathetic than an aging hipster.
There's nothing more pathetic than a liberal puke.
There really isn't. Karen Watson, with your upcoming conference at the end of April, can they find all the information at your website? That's gopbuzz.com.
Yes, and they can also email me directly at karen.watson@gopbuzz.com. That's karen.watson@gopbuzz.com.
Great, and that's on Facebook as well. Karen Watson, author of the book Being Black and Republican in the Age of Obama. Folks, find it. It was written back in 2012. We thank you for joining us here on ARC Midnight. And again, my co-host and myself, Donna Fiducia and Don Neuen, want to thank you all for joining us, for filling in here and allowing us to fill in here on ARC Midnight for John B. Wells. And I always leave with a quote. This saying is from Winston Churchill on the leftist movement. The fascists of the future will call themselves anti-fascists. I think that's pretty apropos, giving these Second Amendment protests. Thank you for joining us here on ARC Midnight, and we thank John B. Wells for the opportunity to fill in. God bless America, everyone, and have a great week.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance, yes. When cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.